Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Jump In Let's Play. As you can see, today we're going to be taking a look at Dinner in Paris from Funny Fox Games. So let's head down below and take a look. Here we are, set up and ready to go for Dinner in Paris. So as always, we'll go through the setup and then give you a look through the gameplay. So we'll start with the board itself. So it's fairly straightforward. We've got a few areas that we need to notice. In the middle is where we will be placing our restaurants, which we've got on the side here, and our terraces, which we have in front of us here. We've actually got the two-player side here. So we will be going from this line on the outside. On the other side of this, you have the 2, 3 and 4 player, just a bit larger, and we'll give you the areas that you can use for that. Off to one side, we have our objectives. This is where we will pull new objectives from every time we claim a personal one. And then over to this side, we've got the pigeon cards. These we will get whenever we cover one of these pigeon spaces with our terraces. And these will be a whole range of bonuses. There'll be immediate bonuses or ones that we can use later in the game. And then here we have a space for some end of game goals. So we shuffle up a deck and then we pull out a card, and that will give us 3 sort of end game objectives for players to work to. And then here it will tell you how many points each player will get, and if there's a tie they get split. Down here we have our resources. So these are what we're going to use to open our restaurants, or in some cases get additional income to place our terraces. We have a stack of them here. We draw 4 for the start of the game and then 4 to each player. And finally, at the side here, we've got all of our restaurants that we just touched on earlier, arranged in different sizes. So we've got the 2s, 3s, 4s and the 5s just at the end there. Now we'll get onto the player board now. This one's got a little bit more going on with it. So down this side we have got our income track. This increases when we either open restaurants or when we hit these markers here, which will give us a permanent boost to our income. We use a gold cube to keep track of it, and then we use the clear cube to keep track of what we're spending in our turn. So this never moves down, it only ever moves up. We use this to track it in real time if you would like to do so. And then each terrace has got its own supply, or each restaurant, sorry, has got its own supply of terraces. And then on here, it's going to give you extra information for each restaurant. So here it will tell us the quantity that there are of each of these. Next to that will be how much it increases our income by and how many points it's worth at the end. Then next to it, the 2 symbols here, you've got 3 there, for example, 4, 5 and 7 is how many ingredients are needed and what quantities and what combinations of ingredients are needed for those. And then to one side here, we've got arranged again in size order our little markers for each of our restaurants. So when we claim one of these will go on the top. So that is the setup. So each player, as I said, has been given their boards, given their pieces, and we've been given 4 resource cards. We also were given 2 objective cards, and we keep one of them in our hands secret. So we kept this one and we put the other one in the common objectives pool, which means that any players can get these. With the objectives, you have a points total that you'll be awarded at the end of the game if you complete whatever the objective here. Here it's having this shape somewhere within your terraces, and then a penalty if you do not complete it by the end of the game. When you complete an objective, you will take a new one and you decide whether you want to put that in your personal or in the common. So on to the game itself. So it's split over 2 phases. On your first phase, you are going to take a card from here. That will automatically happen and you'll add it to your hand. Your hand does have a size limit of 7. You can go over that during the game, but at the end of the turn, you need to discard down to 7. So you can take 1 from here, or you can take the one from the top here. If you take one from here, you will need to replace it from the top. If this is ever empty, you just reshuffle the discard pile to create a new deck of resource cards. The other actions you can then do are the following. You can take another card, you can complete an objective, you can build a restaurant, or you can build terraces. Now, apart from the terraces, you can do 2 of these actions during your turn. So, for example, we draw our cards as normal, and then we get 2 more actions, and we could draw 2 more cards, or we could build 2 restaurants, for example, or we can mix and match those. The only one you can't do twice is the build terraces, because that uses your income track. But it does allow you to build terraces up to your income, so you can put out quite a lot during a turn, especially in the later game. So let's get started. So we will take a look at what we have got here. So we've got ourselves a couple of coins, which is really handy because those will be useful to us. We've got 2 cards here that produce either resource. So we're going to, on our turn, we're going to draw this card. So as I said, this is our mandatory action that we have to do. So we take that and then we replace this one. Now we get our choice of the next 4 actions, and we said we can do those in any combination. We can repeat certain ones as well if we'd like. So we could draw 2 cards if we wanted, but what we're going to do is we're actually going to spend these 2 here to get ourselves our first restaurant, and we're going to get ourselves a frittery. So we're just going to place that here for now, and then we place one of these on top to claim that, so people know that that is ours. So that is our second action in total, and the first of our 2 actions that we get to choose to do. So our third and final action is we are going to spend our money. So this is where we get to use these. So we're going to discard these for 2 golds, for 2 gold coins. So we effectively have 3 at the moment. Now what you can do, because this doesn't go up unless it's a permanent increase, is use the clear cube just to denote that at the moment we have got ourselves 3 coins there, and then we get to decide what we want to do with those coins in terms of our terraces. At the moment it is only the frittery that we can use, so that is what we will do. So we're going to spend 1, and we're going to go here right in front of it. So here we cover up a pigeon, which means we get to draw 1 of these, and then we take a look and see what this does. So this allows us to place terraces adjacent to other players' terraces and cover up to 2 terraces. So this will be a good time to let you know that with the terraces, you can place them pretty much anywhere you'd like on the board in front of your restaurant, as long as it's connecting. So this can come round and go round here. But if another restaurant is placing their terraces, they can't be adjacent vertically or horizontally. Diagonally is fine. So for example, if our opponent placed a restaurant here, they could put 1 here, a terrace, but then neither of us could put 1 here unless we have cards like this. So that's useful a little bit for the end game. So we'll spend another gold, and we're going to place this one here, and we're just going to stop anyone trying to do that to us. And then our final gold coin there, and we're going to place 1 just here. So that is our turn. We've used our 3 actions. As a reminder, that was our mandatory action to take a resource card. We then chose our next action to build a restaurant, and if we had done that, we could have then built another restaurant if we chose, if we had enough resources, or we could have drawn another resource card or completed an objective. But we went for the other option, which was to build terraces, and we use our income, boosted by any temporary income, to be able to build those terraces. So now here at the moment, we'll just show you along the bottom here. If we were to end the game now, this would give us 3 points towards our endgame score, and the frittery would give us 2 points towards the endgame score. So now our opponent takes their turn, they decide whatever they would like to do. Maybe they decide to build a frittery and they're going to go up here. And they don't have any coins, so they just spend some resources for that, and then maybe spend their 1 coin to put a terrace out. So let's just put one of those on there. And they cover up the pigeon, which gives them a pigeon card. So then it comes back to our turn. So again, we've just got this at the moment. So we get to draw our resource cards at the start of our rounds. So if we just take a look here, so we've got either a baguette or a tomato here. So we can take a look along here. So we could try and go towards the fruit de mer or the pizzeria. I'd like the look of the pizzeria, so I'm going to draw this as my very first action. Okay, so we've got the baguette there. So let's draw this one as our second action. Okay, so we've got 2 baguettes there, so we haven't got where we want to. And then our third action, we're going to use that one there in order to place another one of these. Now that has uncovered this, which gives us a permanent boost to our income. And then that is the end of our turn. And it goes back to our opponent. And it will keep going back and forward like this until you meet one of several endgame triggers. So that will be placing a certain number of restaurants. So for a 2-player game, once we've placed 11 restaurants between us in a 2-player game, it will end the game. For a 3 or 4-player game, that number does increase. If a player has placed all of their terrace tiles from 2 restaurant categories, so for example, if we placed all of these, we would then trigger the end game. Or if it's not possible to place more restaurants or terraces on the board, so for example, you can't place it because it would make them adjacent to each other. At that point, you'll then total up your score and you'll be taking a look at several things. So your victory points from your restaurants, which will be at the top here. Your victory points from your terraces built. So again, just check in whichever is the last exposed points value. So here it would be 3. Majorities, so then we would check this card here to see who has got the majority in each of those. And then finally, any completed personal or common objectives, which will be these. And again, if you haven't completed one and it's still in your hand, then you do get that points penalty for not having completed it. So that is a look at dinner in Paris. We're going to head back up top to discuss our final thoughts. See you in a moment. So there we have it, a quick look at the setup and gameplay for Dinner in Paris. So our final thoughts on the game. Well, first up, I just want to say that I've really enjoyed the game. I think it's a really nice area control game. But we're going to take a look, as always, in a bit more depth. So we're going to start with the components, and I'm going to start with the rulebook. Now, they've really done well on the rulebook. Everything is bright, colourful, clearly labelled. We've got some great examples of the setup of the player boards, of different placements and the different cards and what they do for you, as well as a nice comprehensive bit at the back here for the end game triggers and the end game scoring. So I really do like that. Very, very user friendly. Other components, we've got the cards, we've got the player tokens as well. These are fairly standard fare, nothing to write home about, but at the same time, it's a standard that we've gotten used to, so that's always quite a high bar to set anyway. So they're good quality components. The chits for the each player are nice and thick, you know, they're that standard thickness, and the cards themselves are very clear, each one clearly telling you what it does. The resource cards, for example, Each one of them is very clearly labelled with the different foods, and then the larger cards for the majorities, pigeon cards and the objective cards, clearly labelled on the back to let you know exactly what each one is, as well as on the front. They're all very clearly different on the front as well, so there'll be no mixing those up there. We've got ourselves our little rulebook pad. The only thing that I think would have been very helpful in here is to have a reference guide for each player, just a little card, same size as these, with a reminder of the actions that you can take each turn. That's just a sort of personal thing really, but I find that for a lot of new people playing the game for the first time, a handy reference card is always welcome. But that is a very minor thing, doesn't really affect too much on the gameplay itself. Now, the bits that really do stand out for me component-wise are the player boards and the restaurants themselves. These are really cool. They really make you feel as you're building up that courtyard, and then when coupled with these, which are like the parasols over each of the terraces, it just makes it really pop. You've got that nice three-dimensional aspect to the game, so I really do like that, and I can only imagine how nice these would look if someone took the time to paint them. So if you're out there and you fancy painting something, let me know. And the player boards as well. I do love dual layer boards. I think it just helps keep everything in place a bit more. Stuff's not moving around too much. You're not going to be pushing stuff accidentally into other areas, especially with the different terraces. I think that's really important. And we've got a nice simple track for the coins as well. Everything here very clearly laid out, and you will be needing to take a look at all the different parts, but it's all fairly straightforward, telling you what you need to do, especially once you've been through the rulebook. And finally, we have the game board itself. This is a double-sided game board. As you saw in the tutorial, we used the 2-player side, but the other side, the 3- and 4-player side, does actually have the 2-player side on it as well, so you can just use that. But it's nice that they've given you the option for the 2 players, that you could play it without any sort of confusion over where the lines are. And again, everything on the board very clearly laid out. There was a bit of a worry that with it looking like a courtyard itself with the buildings around the edge, that it might be a bit too full, a bit too much going on, but they've done a good job in telling you exactly where everything goes around the board. And once you've got it all set up, it actually looks quite nice and very intuitive. So onto the gameplay itself. So this one felt to me like a bit of a step up from games like Ticket to Ride, for example. It shares a sort of similar thing where you have that drawing cards and then the replacing cards, but it feels like it's that next step up from it, which completely deceives the actual look of the game itself. You've got so many pieces. You've got all these that you need to put together. You've got to punch out all of these and then painstakingly put them into this, and then you've got all these cards that have got to go everywhere. But when you break it down, you're only doing a handful of actions. Those, just as a reminder, the mandatory one where you draw a resource card, and then the other 2 actions, you have 4 possible actions for your second 2, and that's drawing resource cards, building a restaurant, building terraces, and completing a common or personal objective. And I like that you get the choice of how you want to do those as well, with the exception of the build terraces, which you can only choose as an action once in your turn. But for example, you could decide that you're going to build 2 restaurants because you've got the cards for it, or you might want to take 2 cards. And I also like how, depending where you are in the game, you're going to be valuing those different actions in different ways. So your early game, you're going to probably be going after resource cards, maybe a bit more, getting those first few restaurants out, because then that's going to allow you to be able to spend your money to be able to build those terraces, and also be able to give you additional income as well, so you can build more terraces. Then as you're progressing through the game, the common objectives, or the objectives overall, are going to be sort of a highlight for you. And then towards the end of the game, it's just going to be concentrating really on the building terraces as the main focus, and then if you can, using the objectives to fill out that other action. Overall, I think it's a very, very well developed game. I think it's a really good one for players of all levels. If you're a new player just coming into board games and you've maybe played a bit of Carcassonne, a bit of Ticket to Ride, then this is something that's just going to take that the next level for you. But for more experienced board game fans out there, this is something that's still going to give you a lot of satisfaction playing. You do have that area control part of the game there for you as well. So that is everything for this video. If you want to try the game, we do have it in our library, so come on down and give it a go alongside 200 other games in the boardroom. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later.